Hey guys, Cockapunk here. Coming to you with kind of an exciting video. The discussion in Punkworks, which is on the site that shall not be mentioned because I also want to post this on PB Nation. I won't link it to it either because they'll get me for that. And anyway, the discussion we were having about barrel breaks, and we had questions and answers fielded by many people in the industry, out of the industry. It was really interesting debate and discussion about what actually causes barrel breaks. After the paint to barrel match to barrel break test that me and Bryce did, that kind of changed our thinking as far as barrel breaks are concerned, because we kind of had this previous model, which was that if we have too tight a bore, paintball will blow up in the barrel. But we showed with the barrel break test that that just isn't really true. That the barrel might have a small effect, but it's definitely not as large of an effect as we thought. So clearly something else is causing our barrel breaks. Now what else is that? That's kind of the question. Because you know, once we do the compression test, and I posted the egg video, which kind of talked about the principle of why underboring doesn't break any more paint necessarily. We kind of know why it doesn't break any more paint, but the issue is we're still breaking paint, so we got to come up with an idea as to what's actually breaking this paint. It's kind of I mean, that's classic science. When you have a model that, or when you have results that don't fit your current model, you got to toss out your model and get a new model. So what we did is, you know, during the discussion, my champion, what idea I was arguing for the whole time is that, you know, it's not the barrel, it's not a chop, which means it's got to be the paint. So my whole thing during the whole discussion was that, you know, either the paintball is flawed, the seam isn't sealed, there's a weak spot, it's out of round, something like that is causing it to blow up in the barrel. But that assumes something that turns out isn't true, and this is one of those times when I'm wrong, because that kind of assumes that the paintball, that the loading cycle is gentle enough to get the paintball into the breech of the gun without any flaws, thousands of times, without any flaws, just consistent as all get out. And so that kind of assumes, and so a pure barrel break would be when the paintball itself makes it into the barrel without any flaws, and then is fired and it breaks. And so that can really only be from the paintball just simply not being manufactured properly. That's about the only way it can be. And so that's what I've been championing in the chat rooms, on the forums, and whatnot. Well, it turns out that's not really true, because what we have is pure barrel breaks and pure chops. So we have a barrel break where the paint is to blame, basically. Not the barrel. The barrel choice doesn't really matter. It's the paint itself. And then we have chops, which is when the bolt actually shears up the paintball in half and splatters the whole thing all around in the feed neck, and it's this big mess. But we also have something else. And so, you know, what Lurker, a big thing that Lurker Snipez, really smart guy, really like having him around, his idea was that the loading cycle somehow pre-cracks or pre-damages the ball. And once it makes it into the barrel, it might make it into the barrel mostly intact, but when the power pulse comes up from the valve, it just obliterates it. Turns out that the high-speed footage from Simon and Jack pretty much back up that idea for most barrel breaks. So a pure barrel break where the paintball makes it in totally undamaged and then blows up is really a rare occurrence in terms of barrel breaks. And that what is mostly happening is what I was going to call a delayed chop, because to me the loading cycle, a failure in the loading cycle means a chop. But we agreed on the term loading fracture, which is a great term too, because we didn't really have a definition for this. You know, we're kind of delving into stuff that hasn't really been delved into before, and paintball players just don't have the words to describe what's happening. So we invented a term, loading fracture, which is when somehow the ball being loaded either bounces off the breech, bounces in the side, somehow is riding a part of the breech when it gets shoved into the thing, and that shears it slightly. So like Simon's video, his high-speed video, his high-speed video, what happened is the paintball bounced off the bottom and then came up, but not enough to be chopped. It just came up enough to ride the top as it went into the barrel, and that broke it. It pre-damaged the ball. And, you know, this can happen if you have too much ball tension or ball tension on your stack. It will ride the bottom, or it could bounce off a detent. I mean, there's a million things in there that can pre-damage the ball before it goes into your barrel. And so that's what we're looking at as the cause for barrel breaks, is a loading fracture. So, I mean, now that we have this new model, right? We're back to the models. We have this new model, and let's compare that to some of the situations. One of them is my girlfriend. That's who I bought that Cyborg for. She plays woods ball with it, with me at like big games and stuff. I just slap a Revy on top because she's not a machine gunner by any means. And she's shooting 6 to 8, maybe 10 balls per second with it. It works great. She loves a gun. But she can shoot several cases without getting a barrel break. And we couldn't shoot 3,000 rounds without getting 5 or 6 with any barrel we used. Of course, that was at 14 balls per second full auto with Victory Board and Halo compared to just a Revy at 6 or 8. So that kind of makes sense though, because the loading cycle at 14 balls per second is going to be a lot more chaotic than the loading cycle at 6 balls per second. Especially when you're using a force feed loader to cram them down in there. You're going to get a lot more variation, a lot more play, so you're going to get more barrel breaks. So it just, like, the new model, we don't have any evidence against it yet, and so that's what we're kind of going with. Unlike the old model, which was just that the barrel itself caused the problems, because we have pretty convincing evidence that the barrel itself doesn't cause those problems. So we get the new model, and it looks about right. I would hope that Jack and Simon could weigh in on these discussions, because they were instrumental in coming up with this theory. Because I don't have high-speed cameras or glass barrels to show them. They do. So my thanks are out to them for what they're doing. That's awesome. So that's about it. I just want to reinforce that this was a great discussion, and that I mean, we made up new words because paintball didn't have any words to describe what we're doing. Like, that's really exciting stuff. And hope you guys like our videos. Hope you guys like to tune in. We got a huge barrel test coming up this winter in about 3 weeks, actually, and it's gonna be phenomenal. So stay tuned. Talk to you guys later, and have fun shooting people.